Hello, lovely people. Again, we have an episode of the Human Light Bulbs podcast, and I'm very happy and excited about this one. I'm Miss Hellbreaker. I'm very much all about consciousness and awakening, planting seeds on all different platforms, talks, interviews, podcasts, but also I'm here also with yoga, meditation, and energy healing and energy healing devices, and also healing courses. I just want to help people on all levels, and I'm also actually helping now people on like financial income streams, because I want, like, I see where people need help with. Yeah, I have some solutions, so I'm really there to help everyone. And I also really like to introduce really cool new people to you that are sharing their light and their information and having a interesting purpose in their life. And today I have Brian Tseng, and maybe you can talk a bit about yourself, to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Miss Hellbreaker, on this beautiful kind of spring Saturday. I'm coming at you live from northern Nevada, about 80 miles away from where they do the annual Burning Man Festival. Not that I went last year, but I heard it was fun from all my friends. I'm here largely because I'm a volunteer organizing and putting my time and money on the line to help in any way to advance the full disclosure now movement. And the reason why I personally, and I think a lot of other people, call it the full disclosure now movement is because a lot of people are familiar with the Buck Rogers, Star Trek laser beams and UFOs. But a lot of the full part, especially the stuff that Congress in the United States will never get, they don't want to get to, is like the SRA, or satanic ritual abuse, done by politicians, celebrities, the royal family, around the world, peoples at the highest levels of power, involved with these secretive Buck Rogers, very expensive programs, where they're also at the same time subjecting us humanity to the worst forms of torture and enslavement and kidnapping and cannibalism on their part. They're also keeping all the goodies, if you will, for themselves. The clean, free energy, 0 point energy, the anti-gravity that they're using in their Ad Astra TR3B. And, these days it's like the TR 16C or whatever, that the flying triangles, for example, as popularized in the X-Files. And, there's footage of this all over the internet before the advent of popular AI, video and photography imagery, or still imagery rather. And so the whole point of full disclosure is to then basically enable humanity to embrace our Star Trek future. As long as we're living a lie, are ETs real? The Fermi paradox, ETs aren't here, much less cutting horrible, terrible deals with our government in the US going back to the 1930s, or, all the way back to the Egyptian and Mesopotamian and Babylonian, and then before that, the Atlantean and Lemurian times on this planet. We're never, we have to have the truth to live in truth, to raise our vibration spiritually as well. And then that's the ascension spiritual component, if you will, to the full disclosure movement. It's not just technology and unveiling darkness. If we are ever to achieve, I'll give you the example of medbed technology. My understanding is that is a Palladian technology. And there's something known as the intergalactic or higher heavenly, divine intergalactic. They're at a higher level courts. They're dealing with universal law, divine universal justice. And in these courts, right now, a lot of this is apparently being hashed out, where the darkness is being brought to light. And that as above, so below. Some people may be familiar with that spiritual concept. you know, but one of the things apparently is that the Pleiadians, or at least this grouping of Pleiadians, because of course the Pleiades star systems, right? Um, this grouping, whoever it is that has lawful right to claim ownership to this medbed technology, apparently they're very unhappy because this medbed technology has been used by dark service to self-oriented groupings here on this earth to do things like the Montauk Project. You know, it's popularly known as the Montauk Project. I'm sure we'll get into that. The real name, I understand, is called Project Phoenix. And that's thanks to my personal friends and people who survived these programs, such as Arkeem Ra and also John Whitberg, among many others, many others, surprisingly many others. And they're going to be speaking at my conference, shameless plug, that I'm throwing in July in Florida, lovely beaches of St. Pete Beach, Florida, at the Serrata Beach Resort. And it's going to be 4 days and nights of about 34 presenters, special event dinners, witness ET survivor, contactee support group lunches. Those are, night vision goggle, CE5 kind of beach tours, try to call in friendlies, if you will. And, the idea is to provide the most value, pardon me, not just for the attendees, the presenters, and the vendors, but really for the whole world. And so yes, we'll be live streaming it and having the videos as available on as many platforms as we can before we get banned from whichever ones. And that's how we're putting out the good stuff. But
Yeah, because when it's censored, it's probably truth and it's probably real. And there's so many layers to this reality. And then one of the deepest one is like, it's the extraterrestrial, the alien agenda, like this, the secret space program, super soldiers, all of these things, and the dumps and the evil like experiments that they do on people. It's like this, like you can't almost not phantom this, but this is all real.
It
And
takes some time to wrap your mind around. Absolutely. Like I kind of like to use the example of, to my credit, I woke up that yes, 9/11 was an inside job. There's no way two planes can knock down 3 skyscrapers, much less those skyscrapers. To my credit, I figured it out. To my discredit, it took me 3 or 4 years, but to the discredit of our society in general, it well, and society's coming along from 2001, right? I'm sure with audiences like yours, I'm sure, 9 out of 10 are going to be hip, right? If not 10 out of 10. So we're getting somewhere.
We're like, there's more and more people awakening, that's for sure. But so you woke up from the night 11. Did you also have like actual contacts or things happening with yourself?
It's difficult for me to say. It's kind of like a huge irony for me personally being in this community, and including my housemates and business partners and associates that I'm surrounded by. Like, they can literally see auras, like they can, tell what color my aura is, and they'll know if I'm angry, even if I'm hiding I'm angry, and I had a nasty conversation, let's say, with somebody, they'll come in like, why are you spiking red? But I'm like sitting there calm, trying to have fun on the computer playing a video game, but they can tell I'm angry. Or, in this great community that we have people, they're doing remote viewing, and they're doing QHT or QHHT. There's are both levels of quantum hypnosis technique, where, I'm surrounded by people where they're, oh yeah, the other day I was able to go into regression and I saw very clearly my past life or my time in whatever secret space program. And I believe them, not, I mean, because I'm speaking to other people who saw them in these places and they're giving details that are very similar, but especially when they've seen each other, that for me, when you can speak to people separately, and they're giving details, and I'll give a quick one if I may. I helped co-organize something called the Montauk Adventure Tour last summer. It was the 80th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment. When and there's a movie about this Philadelphia Project, there's books. This is when the U.S. Navy took one Tesla generator on each end of the USS Eldridge, a destroyer-class ship, and cranked up the generators off the coast of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And not only did the ship achieve radar invisibility, it ripped a hole or holes into time and space and jumped around for a little bit in time and space, including off the coast of Virginia briefly and off the coast of Montauk, Long Island briefly, is my understanding. And this was the 80th anniversary. And if are you familiar, Miss Hellbreaker, with the popular TV show Stranger Things?
No, but I heard about it, yeah, but I
Okay,
didn't
and
see it.
if I may, let me share my screen here.
Mhm.
Let me see. I want to share my other screen. Let me see. Stop
Mm.
screen share. Um, Here we go. Okay. So here in the United States on the overpriced streaming platform Netflix, there's a TV show entering its 5th season now that is very popular.
I think a lot of
The-
people know it, yeah.
Okay, great. Well,
Quite
this
professional, yeah.
this TV show, while I'm sure anyone in your audience is familiar with it, um, uh, I'm not sure how many would be familiar to know that it's based on very real events and programs and projects here in the United States. This TV show was originally going to be called the Montauk Project, named after the military base, or sorry, the east end of Long Island, New York, where the military base is located. Okay. And these kids were basically made to, they were strapped into a chair um, known as the Montauk Trip Chair. And among other things, they were made to tear open holes into time and space and time travel. And basically, a lot of the kids died. There were up to 300,000 victims over 10 years and
Wow.
more of all of these kids being abducted. And then because it was time travel, they were able to get even more victims. And I know it's a hard concept for people to wrap their heads around because in Stranger Things, they even left out all the time travel stuff. Okay. But what they were essentially doing is deep state elements, rogue elements in, it's not even just the US military, it's governments around the world. They were basically sending people, for example, back in time on evil time travel missions to put us onto negative timelines. So let's say Tesla was just about to do a huge press conference, and the people there in real time couldn't stop him. And that would have put us on a Star Trek future timeline. These are the groups who would have opened up a doorway in time to go right back to that day and like assassinate the reporter who was going to interview Tesla. And Arkeem Ra and John Whitberg were part of this program, among others. It's popularly called the Montauk Project because it was at Montauk, New York. The real military program name apparently was the Project Phoenix. Okay, so that was what Arkeem Ra was part of. And he specifically remembers a time travel mission going back in time where they were basically implanted into like a Renaissance medieval Italian village to basically sabotage the life of, it was basically a Leonardo da Vinci type, except this person was working on, it's like anti-gravity or free energy, or they're both interrelated either way, but they basically erase this person effectively from history. And people like Arkeem Ra, he feels terrible about this. He feels effing, pardon my French, right? But your audience here, but he feels horrible and he wants to come clean. He wants to whistleblow and he wants to name names because he was made to do these things. And likewise, I was talking about survivors of these projects talking with each other. He was there on the Montauk Adventure Tour last summer with me and about 20 other people, many of them also being survivors, having testimonies of these horrible, terrible programs. And he remembers speaking with, for example, another gal. I won't name her. It's her story, testimony to share with him. But they remember being locked up together as children, and he was like a little bit older, like he was like 8 or 9, and she was like 5 or 6, and just arrived at the military base, which is right here, Camp Hero Army base, okay, which is now a state park. It's apparently decommissioned, right? And this is where they have the Sage radar tower. It's also on the premises. It was a very famous, iconic. I'll pull up that imagery as well here.
But they take also children away to make them super soldiers, huh?
Yes. Well, that's the whole thing is everyone who's asking out there why children, why children.
Mhm.
It's because adults, when they strap them into this Montauk trip chair, it
Mhm.
didn't work. They were not effective at opening portals. And most, even then, with the children, the vast majority of children, they couldn't open portals and they died. Like they apparently, they die in the chair, some horrible death. And I'll have to ask one of the people who actually had to witness that to recount that. I know John Whitberg probably could. And for a lot of these survivors, it's highly triggering content.
Mhm.
But needless to say, Arkeem and our mutual friend, they were standing together reminiscing, and he basically remembers how he was being an asshole to her, a little shiza, saying, she's like, my parents are gonna come and find me, and they're gonna rescue me from this terrible place and get me out of here. And he'd already been there like 3 years, and he's saying, no, they're not. You're never gonna see your parents again. And she starts crying. It makes me cry now. Um, and they're like standing there together reminiscing about this, and uh he's like apologizing, you know and
And it's horrible, but it's if you know what they are experimenting indeed on children and so many things, it's so horrible what's happening. And also, but it's like all governments all over the world, they know about it.
oh, oh my God,
And
it's worse. Oh, it's worse than they know about it. They participate in it.
yeah, like
George
so
Bush
many
Sr.,
people.
the Queen of England.
Mm,
And I know it's wild, but I've met multiple survivors now. So many of them are in here, and you can ask them
mm,
separately. They don't even know each other, some of these people. And you say George H.W. Bush Sr., not Jr., mind you,
mm,
but George Sr. And they're like, oh yeah, I was programmed to call him father. And then if you say the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, who's apparently
mm,
just died, but it was really like 4 years ago, probably, in
mm.
my opinion or analysis, if I will, they were made to call her mother.
And she
Okay,
was
and that
really evil, I heard. I also heard about like I also saw videos of survivors that were like as children. They had like the ritual abuse, but also they had like human hunting parties.
yes,
And this is something, but it's like it's almost like whatever let's see in movies and series, it's all real. It's like whatever they have there, it's like it's already real. And I saw like a lot of like Dutch. There's in Holland. There's also Anneke Lucas. It's a Dutch whistleblower, and she has
oh
also on YouTube.
yeah, okay,
She talks about the ritualistic abuse.
hmm
And so that is in Holland quite well known because in Holland it's like they say like it's one of the biggest belly of the beast.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Uh,
I'm giving
it's
thumbs up that
crazy.
she's reporting on it, not that you're the bet that's the belly of the beast.
Yeah, they
Thumbs
say in
up on her
Holland
report. Yeah,
like
yeah.
also like the child abuse in the videos in the servers like the servers like 70-80% comes from Holland. And they're all in it, like politicians, high-end royals, like judges, like the whole judicial program is also all bullshit. And
course.
it's like this, like really such a vast network, but it's getting now in the open. It's like the dark is gonna be bringing to the light, so all the deep things are coming out, like for people to see what's actually happening, like time travel, aliens, like UFOs, like all those experiments. It's all yeah, it's really like mind-blowing. But I have like a lot of times we say also, like we are, like people say, like when they're like into the spiritual light worker path, they say like we're star seeds, because a lot of them like can remember their origin from different planets.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and that
And
is
to me,
also
it's no
coming up with
surprise.
channelings.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, and to me, that's no surprise that
Mhm.
everyone in this community, like, oh, I'm a starseed, I'm a starseed. It's like cliche. It's like living in the San Francisco Bay Area in 2001. It's like, I'm a DJ. Everyone's like, I used to joke, like, I'm DJ Papa Smurf, you know? But there's a reason for that. It's now is the time for us to come out. And as you were remarking about the movies and the films and why it's in there, you know, let's call it the darkness for what it is. That is a satanic Luciferian technique. Okay.
Mhm.
At the individual level, let's say I'm stealing from you and doing horrible things behind your back, and you start to catch on, and you can't believe it at first because they're so terrible, these things. And then you're confronting me with these accusations because you have yet to prove and confirm, and I haven't admitted anything. And so that the Luciferian principle, and this is actually funny enough or not, exactly how in the intelligence community they're apparently trained. It's first, you're ignorant. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Deny, 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 and then get angry and then try to distract, distract, distract. And at that point, then you accuse them of doing exactly what they are rightfully calling you out for.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you start that, but that is also the manipulation. You start like questioning yourself, and also in the whole through the like community, like you have like people saying this, and then people saying this, and then you have also, like they say, controlled opposition, and then you
Yes.
don't even know who to believe anymore. It's really like difficult at the moment.
So, you know, I find this really helpful
Mm-hmm.
to help clarify um, any confusion. Is
Mm-hmm.
first, let's talk about how there is like what we would call the truth, and that's information. Then you've got people who are running out because they don't want whatever truth out there. So that to cover it up, they will either they first will try to censor, hush, hush, hush. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that level of censorship of truth, the next level is disinformation, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
going to make up lies. And oftentimes they're tricky about it. They'll include smatterings of the truth in with their lies, or maybe a lot of truth even, but then with a lie. And they'll put it out there enough in a way that it's confusing, as you say. And then on top of that, now you've got people who they mean well, and now they're trying to report on it. And so they're parroting out, right? Because it's so early in a lot of these situations, or it's so murky, it's hard to get a true analysis. Okay. They're parroting out both the good and the truth, good information, and the disinformation. And that now, my friends, becomes misinformation. Okay. And so now are you dealing with all of that? You're now dealing with the people who are the true positive, you know, we want to be heroic actors in this and do the right thing and advance, you know, we're service to other oriented. That's the starseed part. Okay, the light worker part. Um, and we're trying our best, but in terms of the the lies, at the same time we're trying to get the truth out there. You got other people where maybe we're even us, the best intention of us, we
Mm-hmm.
have varying degrees of true information. So what if one day I'm saying stuff that's very true? Oh man, this Brian guy, he's so on the ball. And then, you know, I got some bad or wrong information, or I remembered it wrong or something. And then, yeah, hear me on the mic, and Brian said that and he's wrong. Da da da. Is Brian a disinformation agent? Was that misinformation? Was it intentional misinformation? And then that's the confusion. Now, if that's not hard enough, you've got people who are intentional disinformation
Mm.
agents, right? And there are people who've come out since, like Richard Hoagland, I believe, and he said, I think I'm getting his name right, or it might not be Hoagland. Might don't quote me on that, but it's one of them. It sounds familiar, it's similar to that. But he first entered this decades ago now, and he's since come clean and come out. So it's not like I'm outing him, but he first entered into the UFO community claiming to have the best intentions, but he was really leaking a mixture of information and disinformation coming to him from, like, a 3-letter alphabet agency, probably whoever's running these programs under the Majestic 12 mantle, probably at that time. And you know, uh, it's bad enough to go into the UFO community and spread disinformation, but then once you get them all hooked, say attend a conference with all of them, and they come out with a bunch of bunk, and then afterwards to come out and say, "Oh, it was a hoax," and discredit the community. Now you're called what's called in the trade a wrecker. Okay,
Mm.
you've come in to wreck things and train wreck, basically. Okay.
But
Um,
let's have at least some things that we definitely know for sure. Like let's like within each other, like really like make sure like this is really like what we think is like happening. Do you think all those evil beings like that do all these evil things? Do you think that they're extraterrestrials, or if they have like sort of like that they come into them, like they were human and then they were like taken over? What is your belief about that?
okay, so this is kind of what around the summer of 2019 really whacked me on the head.
Mm.
Was all my life up until then, I kind of had an artificial mental divide of I've got God and Satan and angels and
Mm.
demons and magic and mysticism over here. And then on this side, I've got ETs and Star Trek and good ETs and negative reptilians over here and science, but no such thing as magic over here. Just like over here, there's not really much science on the magical side and fantasy side. And then I realized, oh my gosh, like, no, it's all one: magic, science, angels, ETs, demons, reptilians. Some of them interact, some of them don't. Some of them acknowledge each other and interact with each other, and they're interacting here and now, and they've done so in our past and will continue to do so. Okay, that's like, that blew my mind. And so when you ask me that question, and I've learned a lot from reading the Bible. I consider myself in some ways a baby Christian, but then I'm not going to call myself a Christian because I think a lot of Christians would throw a Bible at me for saying that reincarnation is a thing. It's saying, "Oh, it's blasphemy, Brian. Like you're going to send, our comrades to hell or whatever." And I'd say, no. And this is an important point for this movement, mind you, in reincarnation and these spiritual concepts, for whether or not you're Christian. They would say to no, I mean, they would say, Rabbi or Brother Yahushua, are you, because Jesus wasn't his name, by the way. That's a Greek, translation. Are you Elijah come again? Are you, Ezekiel come again? They're basically asking, are you this great figure from our history 2 or 1,000 years ago come again? Well, that's because reincarnation was common knowledge. And then they took that out of the Bible. It was in there probably, but it was written out or removed rather. Yeah. And then, so in terms of, um, it's much easier for me to make an analysis of ET and demonic involvement in
Mm.
human history than it is the good guy side. And I think that the reasons are for the good guys, quote unquote, they respect something known as the Prime Directive. Okay. And so for everyone who's ever seen Star Trek, you're familiar with the Prime Directive. Do not interfere with a less technologically advanced civilization and stunt its growth. That's like the worst thing ever. Because it's like, that's the worst thing ever you could do to a child: hurt a child and ruin their whole development for the rest of their lives and their children's children, and even then, right? And
Yeah,
so,
but I'm still wondering my question.
Oh, what about Star Trek and how that came to
No,
be?
the evil beings are this actual extraterrestrials, or
Yes,
is
they're,
it
they're
the
both. They're
humans
everything. They're so
that were like
I'm gonna name. I'll name.
hijacked?
It's both. It's all of that
Okay.
because they're so first you've got. I mean, and this might be helpful, and I'm sure we got all the
Mhm.
time in the world, like we, for this, but
It's
um,
okay. It's all good.
okay, this brings us to what we call intergalactic history. Okay. Basically, and I'm going to give the nickel version. And if I'm wrong, anyone out there, forgive me. I'm not a CIA, Illuminati, draconian deep state agent. Okay. I'm just trying here. All right. For my armchair, best you're going to get is a civilian. All right. So, we all as a humanoids, humanity in general, have a common galactic origin out of Lyra, which is closer to the intergalactic center of the galactic center of the Milky Way, whereas that's a big ball in the center, and then we're on like in the eighth outer arm of one of the spiral arms coming around the Milky Way as we rotate like a giant clock in space. Okay. And as that's going on, what happened is millions or maybe billions, like Carl Sagan, billions and billions of years ago, apparently these reptilians, who we now know as like the Alpha Draconians, somehow
Mhm.
dropped out of another dimension, out of time and space, and into the Lyran area. And what they found was amazing was like cat-like people and human-like people living in like literal gardens of Eden planets. Okay, not violent and not warlike, just Garden of Eden, ready for the conquistador taking. And at that time, that's what apparently began, I guess, like the Orion Wars, or which lasted
Mhm.
like a huge long time. Okay, they weren't like a short, it was like long, thousands of years apparently, and many of us apparently were reincarnated from those as well. Okay, and they basically chased the humanoids out of Lyra to nearby star systems such as Andromeda, Arcturus, Vega, Sirius, um, and Orion. Okay, and that was this huge diaspora, and that's where we get like the Palladians. And then eventually, some of these races made their way out here to this planet, Terra, Gaia, Earth, and they began genetic upgrades on the native hominid species and helped seed the planet. And over millions of years now, came and successively, like at least 8 times or so, upgraded by interweaving like 11 different star nations at least of DNA into us. And that's part of the reason why humanity has reptilian back brain, is that this was permitted by the collective star nations. And some people would say, why the heck would these positive being star nations want this negative draconian reptilian DNA into one of their greatest creations up to that time? Okay. And the reason apparently is, well, the reptilians, they wanted in because by putting the reptilian part into humanity, it gave them a back door to access us and also to hit us at our lower spiritual third chakra and down. Because apparently a lot of these reptilians, and particularly the alpha draconian reptilians, they're stuck in the soul matrix level at a third density um, chakra consciousness system. That's part of
Yeah, because
why.
if you have like only like the first, like the survival, fight, flight, and survival, like sexual energy, like it's also that's why that they put so much in the society about like sex and then willpower, just only service to self. If you're just living on the first three chakra, you don't evolve, you don't go further. Like that's why I also do yoga. Like I enhance that all the chakras are open, because then you will become like an unlimited energy being. And but it's like I think when you only are in the first three chakras, they can come in, and then they come in as like demons, no,
So
from
that's where
other
you're talking,
dimensions.
and that's where your hijacking comes in.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you got alpha draconians who are outside of us as their own physical interdimensional
Mhm.
beings, if they're, in some cases, where if they're able to access the lower fourth dimension, for example. So if they could access at least that, they could phase out of our known reality if we're stuck at just a third density reality vision. But then they can hijack our consciousness, okay, and then enter into a human as well. And then that's where you get a lot of these sacrificial blood rituals and why you get this seemingly maniacal obsession with these
Mhm.
royal bloodline families for inbreeding. They need apparently, and this is what Kathy O'Brien of the Transformation of America and so many greats have reported on. She had to survive these people, have
Mhm.
reported on, and what David Icke gets laughed at. And I just want to bring up a point, for David Icke, for all we know, he started out well, and that's another thing. You could start out well, and then you could literally get kidnapped and mind washed, and then made to put out bad information. So you started out as a positive actor, and you could get turned, and you could even in these days possibly get turned without even being aware of it. That's
Mhm.
what their Manchurian candidate mind control is. And I know some people, well, not watching your show or any of my shows, obviously laugh. They're not even going to bother. But but for anyone who would laugh out there in normie land, that Manchurian candidate stuff, that's a concept going back to the Korean War.
Mhm.
Okay, the
Yeah, it's
50s.
all puppets, all the presidents and all the like
Yeah, and if
people,
they were that advanced in the
politicians.
50s,
A
what do you
joke.
think we are now in 2024?
Mm. Yeah,
You know?
it's all such a joke. And also both party system. It's like once you see through it, you see all that it's all like one big charade. So you have like actual physical alpha draconians, but you
20
also have
feet
like
tall, apparently.
humans that get hijacked. And I
Yes.
think it's also when people are in a low state of mind, low like sadness or depression, they come in and they bring you like suicidal thoughts and stuff.
Right.
And
And
people
that
think it's their own thoughts.
and they're not.
Yeah.
There's are you familiar? There's a psychiatrist here in the US by the name of Jerry Marzinski. And okay, and he has his program, what he found by being a clinical psychiatrist in like prisons and hospitals, really bad mental health, like high level security type mental health units. That a huge majority of his patients who had suicidal or psychotic ideation, the voices, the thoughts in their head, you know, patterns emerge. And they were on the main almost all the time when people, like 9 out of 10, when people are hearing negative voices, they're always they're always negativity, um, messages of negativity. It wasn't ever like voices like, "Oh, you're the best," and that person likes you. It was always like, "You're terrible," and kill that person to prove that you're better than them. It was like a horrible thing. And what Jerry Marzinski discovered as a psychiatrist is he calls it the "that's a lie" program. He says instead of what they do now in BS Western psychiatry, pretend the voices aren't there and then give the
Mm.
person enough medications to make until the voices go away. You confront the voices and you tell them that's a lie. I'm a good person. That's a good person. I'm not going to hurt them. You shut up. And over time, those voices he's found go away. So I just wanted to share that. And I always love giving a shout out to people doing great work out there in the community because it's so great when we support each other, give
Yeah,
each other
yeah. And
platforms
and
like
we
you're doing.
learn from each other and we also let the also people know, like because so many people are struggling right now. And that's why it's also what I do, what I do. I want to let people know that you're not the only one. And there's like you can do like reprogramming your own mindset and your beliefs. And you have so much that you can do, even though this whole reality, it's like you're the ones that is sane in the insane reality, and to let people know like, hey, we know about this reality, and at least we give you some tips to deal with it, because it's not easy. But I really like, I know it will get better. It's like it will,
Oh,
because
it's getting better.
yeah, it's getting better. People are
But
awake
it's also going
now.
to get worse too first. So I don't want to be like, oh, love and light. Don't worry, everyone is going to be great. I mean, like, no, steel yourselves, people. Do you
Mhm.
get on your show get to speak up to the law of one, for example? You know, I find this is always comforting for people to discuss the law of one. It's a concept that we all come from source, God, the great I am, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Creation, the creator. And we all get kind of chipped and shattered down like diamonds, way down and fall way down in dimensional density or consciousness density, down to first level density. Now we're mud and we're working our way up to rock and then we're working our way up to crystal and then diamond. Now we're at second density consciousness. So now we're like bacteria and protozoa and then bugs and then plants and then animals and then more higher level animals. Now we're third density. Now we're like humans, but we're like murderous and we're rapey and tortury and we eat each other, you know. And then like, okay, we're decent people. And then now we're like, oh, we're starting to get in touch with ourselves. We're starting to develop our telepathic abilities. Um, and we're starting to vibe with each other. Now this is a transition, the ascension that so many people speak to, and we will at our conference as well. Now we're getting into the fourth and then fifth density because it's supposed to be a rapid transition, apparently. And I'm now citing like Dolores Cannon, Edgar Casey, and earlier Ashayana Dean for all our listeners.
I know all these names.
Great. And fourth density is like, you know, lower fourth density and like that's like the astral plane where like hell supposedly exists and nasty nightmares and where like these negative reptilians fell out of that universe into ours, possibly. But then once you get transcend the lower fourth, now you're getting into like the astral, the higher astral and telepathy. And now like we're like group vibing and it's more positive. And then the lower fifth, we're now like group mind vibing. And then probably higher fifth is like group minds vibing with other group minds across time and space and outside of that. And then sixth is probably across dimensions and realities. And up there, you're at God level, but we're down here at third. Okay. But a lot of people who are struggling, especially now, we're dealing with this third density BS. My father just died from the clot shots in November
Wow.
from being perfectly healthy. And he put me on the map. You know, I couldn't do anything that I'm doing now without standing the help that he and my mom did. And so now my mother, married to dad 50 years, she's like without my dad, you know, on the East Coast. It's horrible. You know, I'm glad that my one brother, Jason's with her. Okay, but otherwise, just but but so the third density, Brian, is like, oh, this is so terrible. My dad's gone. You know, someday I'm gonna die. At least for me, thank God I didn't clot shot myself. And
Mm.
and you know, and meanwhile, I'm dealing with worried about bills and money and my own health and X, Y, and Z. And who in their right mind could be happy if that's your reality, people? That's
Mm.
all your reality is. No wonder you're depressed, drinking, you know, cheating on your wife, having, you know, whatever. No wonder, because that's a horrible, terrible worldview. And then especially if you add, you know, and then if you don't pray hard enough and you die and you know, you go to hell. Right? So the fourth density understanding to transcend that, please, okay, is you know, yeah, great, we die, but you know, maybe I'll come back. Maybe I'm not. I won't. Maybe I'll get to rest for a while and go back to source. You know, maybe I'll get to time travel back and live this exact life again, but do it better. Or, nah, man, I hated this life. This would suck. I want to go somewhere else, please God. But that's an opportunity. Okay. And that's between you and your higher self and source. You know, we'll leave it there. But that's a fourth level density. And so it's almost like a lot more come what may, you know, hey, if I live this life and I don't become a millionaire and you know have the most beautiful wife and drive a Cybertruck and change the world and blah blah blah, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. If I even, you know, something that bothered me for the longest time, if I have a child or not with my wife, you know, either way, once you hit the fourth density or fifth, now it's okay. Either way, it's fine. Right. And then
Mm.
fifth density is like, you know, shit, maybe I'll live a terrible life. And that's great because when I get to the spirit side, I'll be glad because I lived so many great lives. I'm glad I had a shitty life, quote unquote. That's a fifth density way of looking at it. And I know it's mind boggling to someone in the third density, like, what? That's who the hell would think like that? That's crazy talk. Depends on how you look at it, right?
Yeah,
I would
it's also
argue.
what you want yourself. Like if you want to change, if you want to make a difference, like the tools are out there. Like you say, ignorance is bliss, but like the truth is so out there. Like people are like don't want to know it anymore. Like it's come out like it's the same as for you. Like you can make a difference. You can like you are more powerful than you think, and you can change whatever you can change. Like you can change your thoughts, your beliefs, and that really transcends your reality, because your reality is a mirror of like who you are, because you can transcend it. And that's like you like people stay into victim mode, or like running away from the problems, or you can deal with it. But
And that victim
I
mode,
also understand it's not easy.
you really hit on that word, victim mode. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you doing life coaching and work with a lot of people
Mhm.
running into this a lot. And there's a lot of aspects to that in our modern society. One is they not only do they not teach us the give us the tools to break
Mhm.
out of that, they teach us wrong. And my favorite classic example of this is when everyone in the 80s and 90s was running around, have you read this book? Have you read this book? Oprah Winfrey talked about it on her show. It's called The Secret. Okay, yeah. What's the secret? And and finally, it's called the law of attraction. Oprah taught me that if I want a pink Cadillac, what I need to do is do a vision board, pink Cadillacs, and I need to draw it, and I need to dream about it, and I need to have a diary about it, and I need to just hope and wish and be a good person. And and sure, work hard, and I'll get it. I will get my pink Cadillac. Okay. What she left out is the law of right alignment. Okay. Like I can do all the vision boarding I want for my pink Cadillac, but if I'm like snorting cocaine and not working hard and cheating on my wife and being a jerk to my kids, and losing my house, doesn't matter how much I hope and wish and try to attract through the secret, you know, my pink Cadillac, it ain't gonna happen. Right. The other thing they left out of the law of attraction, the companion, the law of right aligned action, is also another corollary thing. And I don't know if it's a law or not, but it's a concept that whatever you're asking for, you got to ask yourself, is that in alignment with your higher will and God's will, if you will? Does God want you to have a pink Cadillac? Does he give a shit if you have a pink Cadillac? Maybe while you're going for your pink Cadillac, you're neglecting your kids and your wife, and he wants you to deal with that. And he's giving you everything but that pink Cadillac. Right. So that's just for that. I
Yeah.
just wanted to, and I think that's some perspective to help people who are to fall out of the victim mentalities. Make sure, if you want to get out of being a victim and you don't think you can do it, the first thing you got to do, is be real with yourself, be true, and look in the mirror and examine your motivations. And when you're real with yourself, then all of a sudden it's less about other people beating yourself up, and it's why the hell are you wallowing in the mud? Yeah.
Yeah, and because we're not here to struggle, we're here to rise above that and thrive. And that is that once you come together and you like it will, and more people are on the same wavelength, and we're coming together as a soul tribe, and you're uniting. And that's why this is also like the ascension, and this is also the times that we are coming into our power. We are activating ourselves and each other more and more. So it will only grow. The light is only growing, and we'll like the dark can't, like it has at one point it's like it's everybody will know at one point. Like we are reaching that tipping point, that 100 monkey effect. Um,
Let's put it this way, it's like you don't have a choice anymore, right? For everyone who thinks they can just stay in the 3D world and try to get a job in Silicon Valley for Facebook, and then get stock options, and they're gonna do become Mark Zuckerberg, that reality is crumbling. So it's
mm,
almost like you don't have a choice to cling on to a reality that's crumbling. It's like no one, how many people out there who have laughed at you 3 years ago for saying, please don't roll up your sleeve. Don't let them needle rape you. Okay. I mean, or no,
yeah,
stick
so
that
that
crap up your
also.
nose or your kid's nose. Please don't do it. They would laugh and call, and some of them to this day still do it. They'll make, oh, your tinfoil hat, blah, blah, blah. but now they've shut up largely. No one's running around wearing build back better, Biden so great hats. Okay. And then like most people can't even remember who our vice president's supposed to be right now here in the US. Okay. So it just shows you that. And so it's like you don't have a choice but to elevate and find newer ways of doing things. I like to think about the Earth 2.0. We're like, hey,
Mhm.
like, I'm going to go into business utilizing this technology that they're using to censor us and repress us with. Well, I'm going to use it to reach out to people and offer my services to give them good life coaching while I raise my kids and homeschool them, because forget all these aspects of the system that have been holding us back. Forget that. And I'm going to do it better and link it with other people to help me do it better. And that's
Mhm.
how we're going to, rise up.
That's
You
how we're
know,
going to build a new system. Yeah. And that's happening everywhere. I I have one more question that's really something
please.
that's also already like in me for a long time, like space. Do you like are the aliens coming from a different dimension? Like, or are they coming from like from above? Or are they coming from like extra terrain? Well, because maybe there is extra terrain around us. Like what they didn't say, we are
So
maybe on a bigger plane or several planes above each other. There's different ways what
my snarky answer is yes. Okay. And then to go into that, it's yes, all of the above.
oh
It's
well.
pretty much all of that. However, so what I believe is I believe we live in a real third density, three-dimensional time space reality,
Mm,
but with some kind of weird, probably artificial AI overlay. So it's not to say we're just in a simulation. It's no, we're in a hard reality with a matrix simulation overlay. Okay. Um, and then within this reality, physical reality, I personally believe we live on a globe. But I believe it's a globe within inner Earth. So it's a Swiss cheese globe, okay, where it's not like one big hollow Earth, but there are large cavities pockmarked within a larger ball, okay? And then, yes, there is space, and like we're orbited by our moon, and then we're orbiting around the sun and all that, surrounded by the Van Allen radiation belt, which may be, in fact, some kind of like super high tech ET level quarantine for this system. Okay.
yeah,
And at
there
this,
are people saying that we like the quarantine will go away and then they
yes,
can visit us.
right, exactly. But until then, humanity, at least we can't escape using any conventional means. The higher tech ET, they just portal in and out through the sun, for example. A lot of
Mm.
people report on in these programs talk about portals out near Jupiter as well. So those are apparently the big portals are the sun and Jupiter for our local system. I was going to say, then in addition to inner earth beings, we also have interdimensional beings from higher and lower dimensions. So you had like evil people like Jack Parsons or Aleister Crowley trying to summon, and CERN, they're trying to summon negative Lovecraftian beings, if you will, okay, to put us on a negative timeline. That's all they care about, putting us on a negative timeline. It's what do they want to do? They want evil to win. How do they win? Put us on a negative timeline. How do we win? We ascend as many of us as possible with Mother Earth to a positive timeline, you know. And I just want to go back real quick to not leave our listeners hanging. The reptilian part, the negative is like they can negatively access us to control us with sex and power and greed and blah and violence and all that. The positive part is a lot of the advanced ET races would acknowledge that that is a huge strength as well, that hardwired to survive no matter what. Because there's some situations that sometimes in this cold, dark universe, sometimes it can, I mean, it's bright and beautiful too, but it can also be cold and dark. There are times where certain species might have to eat their kids to survive. And none of these other ETs, like the higher level, more evolved species, naturally you're just going to be able to pull that off. And so that was the positive rationale for why they would want to include in this creation of humanity. So, I'd say God created everything, including the ET species who created the bodies that we inhabit. But in the end, we all come from one. But we live in bodies whose DNA has been manipulated over millions of years by ETs. But guess what? The ETs came from source too, and they themselves, in the main, at least the higher spiritual ones, would acknowledge that reality.
Yeah, and I also believe there is a benevolent source. Like we can tap into that. We can feel that.
That's
So we
love.
know it's there.
Yeah.
And we know there's like we don't have to trust certain plans out there, but we trust the divine plan. And,
Have you
and we all know it's gonna be better at one point.
this what this is another thing, just like
Mhm.
talk about densities and this and that. The concept of there's really two universal forces, and there's only really the two. They're opposing: love and fear. And in the center, which we're always coming back to, we're always radiating out love, 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 and then we're always being seemingly attacked or by the fear, 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 fear. And while we're radiating love, 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 and at every given second, minute, whatever choice of our lives, big and small, we're always in a way you can break it down in our, am I choosing love or fear? Am I choosing to like have a great time with my wife and pay attention to her and and this and that? Or am I going to like get angry with her for something stupid and isolate and be smaller for it? Okay, that's love or fear. And the people who are unhappy, I would encourage you to look at how you yourself can manifest through your own actions as much love as possible. And then if you're not manifesting enough love, then let's talk. But first, let's do that, and then let's talk. That's my
Yes.
coaching.
So instead of going to all those alien, we went into that stuff, but we also went to higher stuff, and it's beautiful because it's all aligned. It's all a part of everything. So and that is so wherever, like whoever is watching this, you will find here snippets of different parts. And that's why this was so nice to hear, I hopefully, for everybody who is watching this. So I had at least some of the questions answered, and I'm really I'm really looking forward, like what, because we know at one point it will be disclosure, the whole veil will be lifting, we will have it all better, but we don't know how it will manifest and when. But at least we know it's coming at one point.
Well, I can pretty much tell you how it's not going to happen, and this is where I'm going to share my screen and again shamelessly plug my event here, because I've not just because, but in part because I have such an amazing lineup. I'm so proud of the lineup that my team and I have assembled here. And the presenters themselves have helped me. Oh, my buddy Tony Rodriguez, he'll speak, and Laura, she'll want to speak. Laura Eisenhower, great granddaughter of President Eisenhower in the U.S.
Yes, it's all very well-known people in the Truther and the UFO community. Carrie Cassidy as well, Tony
Yes.
Rodriguez. Like, this people that like I also heard several times.
And if you can't make it in person because you're too far away, we will
Mhm.
have live stream tickets available. And if you like a discount, feel free to reach out directly to me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm wearing it's the same profile picture because I'm the host and MC here, with my kind of Willy Wonka top hat type thing here. And it's going to be in Florida this July 15th to 18th. And the way disclosure is not going to happen is by a press conference at the Pentagon where they release all this, because like we said at the very beginning of our interview here, the last thing the politicians are ever going to want to do is talk about all the sex tapes and the Epstein Island stuff, right? Much less involving ETs, and be they negative reptilians or grays or whatnot. Okay. The way it's going to happen, disclosure, is from people pushing from the ground up Imagine if everyone who watched Stranger Things clamoring for season 5 said, "Hey, while we like this show and it's great, we know it's based on reality, and we know that people like Colonel Michael Aquino, who recently died, apparently, that had a lot of henchmen and are still running around in the U.S. military, the alphabet agencies, who have yet to be brought to justice. We're going to watch our TV show and at the same time start a campaign for justice, and we're going to name names and circulate the pictures and names of all these people." Okay, that's how it's going to happen. Where now people are starting to get rounded up by whatever white hat elements there are in whatever agencies and militaries and police forces there are. And, and even the civilian Department of Energy, and computer, tech sectors who like Seth Rich, bless his soul, who
Mhm.
sacrificed himself to release the Hillary Clinton files, releasing, involving all their Pizzagate, you know,
There's enough
satanic ritual abuse.
research after listening to this. People can really find all of everything we search. And so this is really cool website where you can check on Full Disclosure Now conference. I'll put the link underneath the video so you can really check into it. So it's possible to attend yourself or really also attend online. And they have really amazing speakers that are well known in the community. And yeah, I even had like several of my Facebook friends are on it as well. Drago Reed and Zachary Fisher
Well,
and
come
Laura
on, party
Hazel.
with us. We're
And
gonna have after parties at. I'm not gonna name whose place it is, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be amazing, and anyone who joins us, I mean, it's one thing to be friends with some of these folks on Facebook, and I've already gotten to speak with them, if not,
Mhm.
online, but to be in person, hanging out with them on the beach. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And it's like people that are already so many years already sharing their voices, sharing what they know. And there's so many things out there, like so many people also talking about like the secret space program, the super soldiers. These talks are amazing also on YouTube. People sharing like the most mind-blowing talks. So that's what you also will have on your conference. So it's like really crazy. But all of this thing, all of what he was saying, this is like actually real things happening there. Like this, there's more to this reality, that's for sure. So may this for some people they already know a lot of things, but for other people maybe the first thing they hear about all these things. So yeah, see that you like research things or maybe check out the conference and. But thank you very much for this talk. I love sharing about subjects, all subjects. Like nothing is off the table. Everything can be there, and let's talk about it. Like I want to know more about this and this and this. So this was really great. So thank you so much.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you.
yeah.
Let me crowdsource an appeal to everyone out there. If you'd like me back, please like and subscribe and put in the comments that you'd like me back. Because one of the questions I'd really like to come back to discuss, because it's something that we didn't really get to touch base on, um, is the concept of discernment and using proofs, as I call them and others will call them, for how do you tell who's saying what, how true or not, and how do you establish a structure that you can now work with, a work
Mm.
model. And I'd love to come back to discuss that at any time.
Oh, thank you very much. You're very welcome. And thank you everybody for watching and put the links underneath. And I hope you really enjoyed it. And yeah, so thank you. And you're very welcome also to to subscribe for more inspirational content and also to leave a comment here about how what you thought of this talk. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Fulldisclosuremovement.org.
Yay.